You first heard it in the deep quiet of space. It was a sound that did not travel through air. It vibrated through the very hull of your scout ship. You were charting the empty voids between spiral arms, places where even the background radiation seemed to hold its breath. It was a hum, a deep and steady thrumming. It felt less like a noise, more like a presence. Your instruments registered nothing. The ship's diagnostic systems all reported perfect function. Every sensor sweep came back clean. This was impossible. Space is silent. That is its first and most profound rule. But the hum was there. It resonated in your bones. It seemed to whisper directly into your mind. You thought maybe you were going mad. 3 years alone in the deep black can do that. You recorded everything anyway. You logged the non-existent sound. You documented the strange feeling of being watched. Houston called it deep space fatigue. They suggested a psych evaluation upon your return, a polite way of saying you were losing your grip. But you knew what you felt. It was real. You turned your ship toward the source. You decided to chase the ghost in the machine. Your probes followed the strange signal. They plunged into the darkness, where the hum was strongest. Each probe was a tiny metal heart. It was beating with our best technology. They sent back data streams, star charts, and gravity readings. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The hum remained a ghost, a whisper without a mouth to speak it. Then probe number 7 went silent. It did not explode. It did not report a malfunction. It simply vanished from your screens. One moment, it was there. The next, it was gone. An instant later, probe number 6 followed. Then 5. Then 4. Something was swallowing them whole. It was moving toward you. Your hand hovered over the emergency jump drive. Every instinct screamed at you to run. But you held your position. Curiosity is humanity's oldest trait. It is perhaps our most dangerous one, too. The final probe, number 1, sent a single image before it disappeared. It was not a picture of a ship or a planet. It was a picture of a hole, a tear in the very fabric of the universe. It was a wound in the night. It bled a light your eyes were not meant to see. A vessel of pure light emerged from the rift. It did not fly so much as it bloomed. It unfolded like a flower made of impossible colors. Your ship's alarms screamed. They warned of radiation, of temporal distortion, of things for which they had no names. But you felt no heat. You felt no threat. You only felt a vast and ancient calm. Its pilots were beings ancient beyond imagination. They did not communicate with words. Their thoughts simply appeared in your mind. They were not invasive. They were gentle, like a soft rain after a long drought. They introduced themselves as the Elder Ones. They had watched humanity for eons. They had seen us take our first steps into the cosmos. They showed you images of your own history. They showed you the pyramids being built. They showed you the Wright brothers taking flight. They showed you the first colony on Mars. They saw your potential. They saw your endless drive to explore. And they had decided you were finally ready. Ready for the truth. They showed you what was truly between the stars. It was not the empty vacuum you believed it to be. It was an invisible ocean of unknown matter. A sea of energy that connects everything. They called it the Dark Sea. A place where the rules of your physics were merely suggestions. A place where true travel happened. You had always seen space as a series of destinations, points of light separated by vast emptiness. This was the foundation of your star science. The Elder Ones showed you your error. The emptiness itself was the destination. It was not a barrier. It was a medium, a river flowing through all of creation. Your ships were like stones skipping across its surface. You never truly entered the current. You just danced on its edge. The Elder Ones moved through it. They sailed its hidden tides. Their ships of light were not machines. They were extensions of their will. They were vessels designed for an ocean you never knew existed, an ocean that was all around you. The Elder Ones offered you a great gift. They would teach you how to sail that hidden sea. They saw the spark in humanity, the same spark that had once driven them from their own cradle world. The desire not just to see the stars, but to touch them, to be among them. Not as a visitor, but as a resident. This was a turning point for your entire species. You were a single explorer in a small scout ship, but you held the key to a new age. To accept their offer was to change humanity forever. To refuse was to leave your people in the cosmic shallows, to let them believe the surface of the ocean was its only truth. It was not much of a choice at all. You transmitted your acceptance. You sent it with a simple pulse of your own thoughts, a feeling of gratitude and of burning curiosity. The vessel of light pulsed in response. Its colors deepened. The hum in your ship grew stronger. It was no longer a whisper. It was a song of welcome, a symphony of the dark sea. You had to unlearn your physics. The first lessons were the hardest. The Elder Ones temporarily disabled your ship's systems. Your screens went dark. Your navigation console fell silent. You were adrift in the truest sense of the word. They told you to close your eyes. They told you to stop thinking about numbers and vectors. You had to feel the universe instead of measuring it. At first, you felt nothing. Just the familiar slight vertigo of zero gravity. You felt the recycled air in your lungs. You felt the faint vibration of your life support. This was familiar. It was safe. But it was not the lesson. The Elder Ones were patient. They waited. They let you sit in the silence. Then, you started to feel it. A subtle pressure against the hull. A current in the endless night. It was like feeling the wind on your skin. Except there was no wind. There was no skin. There was only you and the sea. You learned to distinguish its patterns. There were slow, lazy rivers of dark matter. There were churning whirlpools of unseen energy. You were a blind man learning the shape of a new world. Your thoughts could shape the dark currents. This was the next step, the most difficult one. The Elder Ones explained that the sea responded to consciousness. It was a passive observer, until a focused mind touched it. Your focus was now your engine and your guide. Your will was your rudder. It sounded like something from an old fantasy novel. You practiced by creating small eddies. You would focus on a point just off your bow. You would imagine the dark matter swirling there. At first, nothing happened. Your mind was a chaotic storm of doubts and calculations. You were still trying to measure. You were still trying to force it. It was like trying to grab smoke. The harder you squeezed, the faster it disappeared. The key was to let go. You had to stop commanding and start suggesting. You gently neutered the current with your thoughts. You did not push it. You invited it. And slowly, hesitantly, it responded. A small whirlpool of nothingness formed in the void. It was no bigger than your fist, but it was there. You had touched the sea, and the sea had touched you back. New ships were needed for this ocean. Your metal scout ship was a rock. It was dense and blind to the currents. To truly sail the dark sea, you needed a new kind of vessel. The Elder Ones guided you in its creation. It was not built in a dry dock. It was not welded or riveted. It was grown from crystal and pure will. You started with a seed. a single crystalline lattice provided by the ancients. You fed it with your own focused thought. You poured your intention into it. You imagined its shape, a sleek, organic form, something that looked more like a deep sea creature than a spaceship. The crystal responded. It grew. It twisted into the shape you held in your mind. The process took weeks. It was the most exhausting and exhilarating thing you had ever done. Every line, every curve was a product of your focus. Other humans joined you. The best and brightest minds were brought to the rift. Together, you wove your wills into the growing ship. It became a cathedral of shared purpose, a testament to your united desire to ride the dark. Your first journey was a terrifying plunge. The finished ship, the rider, was a thing of beauty. Its crystalline hull shimmered with captured light. It felt alive beneath your touch. There was no command chair. There was no pilot. The entire crew would guide it as one. You and your team took your places. You closed your eyes. And you dove. The dark matter sea fought against your mind. It was no longer the gentle river you had practiced in. This was the deep ocean. Its currents were powerful and ancient. They pushed against your will. They sought to splinter your focus, to tear your unified consciousness apart. The ship shuddered. Alarms you did not know it had screamed in your minds. It felt like being in a hurricane made of thought. Voices of doubt whispered at the edge of your mind. They told you to turn back. They told you that you were not worthy, that you were just a child splashing in a giant's ocean. For a moment, your collective will faltered. The ship began to tumble end over end, lost in the black tide. The elders spoke of a great danger. During your training, they had been cryptic. They spoke of other travelers on the sea. Not all of them were friendly explorers. Other races coveted the dark sea for themselves. They saw it not as a medium for exploration. They saw it as a source of power, a weapon to be controlled. They had been a little short on details, until now. As you struggled to regain control of the rider, the elders' warning echoed in your mind. They told you of the gatekeepers, an ancient race that had appointed themselves protectors of the sea. They were powerful. They were ruthless, and they did not tolerate new species entering their domain. It seemed your little swimming lesson was about to be interrupted. The elders could not interfere directly. This was a test you had to face on your own. It was one thing to learn to sail. It was another thing to survive the other sailors, especially the ones who thought they owned the entire ocean. It was a classic case of being thrown in the deep end. Except the deep end had very large teeth. A powerful fleet appeared from the darkness. They did not bloom into existence like the elders' ship. They tore their way into reality, ripping open the fabric of the dark sea. Their ships were jagged and brutalist. They were weapons made of solidified shadow and malice. They radiated an aura of pure dominance. There were dozens of them. They called themselves the Guardians of the Void. Their thoughts crashed into your mind like a tidal wave. There was no subtlety here, no gentle introduction. It was a raw broadcast of power and authority. They declared this region of the dark sea to be their territory. Your presence was a trespass. The penalty was annihilation. You tried to communicate. You tried to explain that you were peaceful explorers, that you were students of the Elder Ones. The name gave them pause, a flicker of something that might have been respect, or perhaps it was fear. But it was quickly replaced by arrogance. They said the elders were old fools, blind to the dangers of sharing their secrets. They said the sea needed to be controlled, not explored. The first challenge came without further warning. The gatekeepers tested your strength. There was no formal declaration of a duel, no honorable combat. They simply acted. The lead gatekeeper ship, a behemoth of black metal and angry energy, began to glow. It pulsed with a malevolent purple light. It was gathering the dark matter around it. They sent a wave of dark energy to crush you. It was not a beam or a projectile. It was a distortion of the sea itself. A tsunami of pure force moving toward your fragile crystal ship. Your mind reeled from the pressure. The collective consciousness of your crew began to fracture. Panic was a poison spreading through your linked thoughts. The rider cried out. The crystal hull groaned under the strain. You could feel its nascent spirit wanting to flee, to jump into the shallow waters of normal space. But there was nowhere to run. The wave was immense. It would shatter your ship and scatter your minds across the void. You had one chance, one lesson left to master. You used their own power against them. The idea was insane. It was like trying to catch a lightning bolt in your bare hands. But it was the only path open to you. You remembered the lesson of the eddy, of not commanding the sea but inviting it. You had to invite a tsunami to change its course. A truly terrible idea. You and your crew focused your minds as one. You pushed past the fear. You found a single point of pure, cold clarity. You did not try to stop the wave. You did not try to block it. You reached out with your thoughts. You joined with its monstrous power. You asked it to dance. You bent the energy into a shield around your ship. For a terrifying moment, you were inside the storm. The dark energy washed over the rider's crystalline hull. But it did not crush it. Instead, it flowed. It followed the new path you had offered it. It wrapped around your ship like a cocoon of tamed fury. The purple light of the attack became your armor. You were riding the wave. A new horizon opened before you. Your victory earned you a place among the riders. The gatekeepers' fleet sat in stunned silence. Their own weapon was now your shield. They had thrown their best punch, and you had simply caught it. The raw display of power was something they had not expected. It was something they understood. The wave of energy dissipated. You released it from your control. It flowed back into the placid currents of the sea. The rider floated in the sudden quiet. Its crystal hull was unharmed. It seemed to shine even brighter than before. The gatekeeper's leader sent another thought. This time, it was not a threat. It was a single word. How? You did not answer with words. You answered with a feeling, a projection of pure, undiluted confidence. You showed them what the Elder Ones had taught you. That the sea was not a weapon. It was a partner. It would respond to respect in ways it never would to domination. The gatekeepers now saw you as equals, perhaps even something more. They saw you as a new and unpredictable power in the dark. The endless journey had truly begun. You left your old star lanes behind forever. There was no going back to skipping stones on the surface. You were a creature of the deep now. The gatekeepers pulled their fleet back. They did not offer friendship, but they offered passage, an acknowledgement that you had earned the right to sail these waters. You looked out from the rider, not with your eyes, but with your mind. You saw the endless ocean of dark matter stretching out before you, full of wonders and full of dangers, full of races older than time and phenomena that defied reason. This was your new home. This was your new frontier. Humanity's future was now written in the dark. You were the first of a new generation, the first of the Dark Riders. Your small scout ship was a museum piece now, a relic from a simpler time. You had chased a whisper into the void. And you had found the voice of the universe itself. The journey was far from over. In truth, it had just begun.